When you say noise cancelling headphones, Bose comes to mind. Today we're going to take a look at a couple of the Bose noise cancelling headphones, starting with the QC35. I'm also going to talk about the QC45. However, I do not currently have the QC45, but I did do a review and test it out last year. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And I'm also going to insert some of the call quality tests that I did last year into this video. We're also going to talk about the NC700. And last but not least, the latest Bose headphones, the Bose QC Ultra headphones. So let's get started. I want to start off with design. Now the QC35 and 45, they share a very similar, they're nearly identical visually. Then with the NC700, Bose kind of deviated from that classic design and went in a completely different direction with a more futuristic, more modern looking headphone. And finally with the QC Ultra, I felt it was kind of a hybrid between the classic design and classic looks of the QC35-45 and the NC700. It's worth noting that the NC700 is the only one that does not fold, so if portability is a factor for you, keep that in mind. Beyond how it looks, which is completely subjective, there's how you interact with the headphones. The QC35 and 45 had physical buttons, but again, with the NC700, Bose opted for touch controls. And in their latest QC Ultra headphones, again, a hybrid of the 35, 45, and 700. It has both physical buttons to control media playback, but also a touch-sensitive strip to control volume. Now, what you prefer is completely subjective. For some people, touch controls is the bane of their existence. Personally, I found the touch controls on the NC700 to be actually quite nice, easy to use and quite responsive. But again, which one you prefer is completely up to you. Now, speaking of design, the NC700, in my opinion, does feel a little bit more premium than the others. However, this comes at a cost. On the one hand, as I said, you cannot fold it, so it's less portable. But also, this brings me to comfort. It's the least comfortable of the bunch. The QC35 and by extension the QC45, in my opinion, are one of the most comfortable headphones out there, followed by the QuietComfort Ultra, which is very comfortable, but maybe just a little bit less comfortable than the 35 or 45. And in third place comes the NC700. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not uncomfortable. It's just compared to the others, it's noticeably less comfortable. So if you value comfort, that's something to keep in mind. Moving on to sound quality. Now, I'm not an audiophile and I try to keep my reviews very simple and straightforward. So I'm not going to go into frequency responses. And I also think sound is quite subjective as well. But something does stand out here. The QC Ultra are the only ones that support high-res codecs, so they support aptX. All the previous generations do not support high-res codecs. The Ultra also has Bose's immersive audio, which is the first headphones to have that, which elevates and widens the soundstage. It kind of brings your music to life. So here the Ultra does stand out in the audio department. The others all lack support for high-res codecs and they sound a little bit similar. The 45s are a little bit brighter than the 700s, but the fact that you can customize your sound with a built-in EQ means you can fine-tune the sound to your liking. There's a few preset EQs on all of them, but you can also play around with the bass, the treble, and the mids, so you can fine-tune the sound to your liking. Now, arguably the most important part of the comparison, ANC or active noise cancellation. Bose has always mostly dominated the ANC market. They were the first to introduce ANC or active noise cancellation to consumer products, and they've been doing it for a very long time, and they're really good at it. You know, I find every newer generation of noise cancelling headphones slightly improves on the ANC. It's only marginally better, barely noticeable at some points. They're all excellent, but the 700s are slightly better than the 35s. The 45s are slightly better than the 700s, and the QC Ultra are slightly better than the predecessors. And I say slightly. I did a lot of tests, and at some points you can barely notice any difference. So there's just marginal improvement from generation to the other, and really you can't go wrong with any of them in terms of noise cancellation. However, there is a big difference amongst them. The QC35 only has two settings for ANC. You can have ANC high or ANC low. There's no aware mode or transparency mode. The NC700 introduced 10 or 11 different levels of ANC. So you have variable ANC with the NC700, which also enables Aware mode. So if you set the ANC to 0, you have Aware mode, and this way you can keep your headphones on and speak naturally, well, to a certain degree naturally, without having to remove them and without feeling that your voice is muffled. Moving on to the QC45, they do not have variable ANC, but they do have Aware mode. So again, you got Aware mode, but only one setting of noise cancellation. And lastly, the QC Ultras also have variable ANC and also have Aware mode. Now, in a few seconds, I'm going to do a small experiment so that you can have an idea of how effective the noise cancellation is. But before I do that, I want to talk about Aware mode. So as I said, the QC35 don't have Aware mode, so this concerns only the 45s, the 700s, and the Ultra. And here, there are 2 points in favor of the Ultra. First of all, it is the most natural of the bunch. So when you have them on and you're speaking, it sounds significantly more natural with the Ultras over the 700s or the 45s. And I think the Ultras are the first Bose headphones that actually sound somewhat natural, not to the extent of the Apple AirPods. These for me are the most natural sounding, but dangerously close. The other point in favor of the Ultra is something called Active Sense, which you can enable in Aware mode. And what Active Sense does, it constantly monitors the environment for loud sudden sounds and kicks in noise cancellation to attenuate that loud sound, which works quite well. And again, you'll hear that for yourself in just a sec. And lastly, another point in favor of the Ultra is wind block, which is again another new feature which reduces the sound of gusts of wind, which can pass through the external microphones on the ear cups. Matter of fact, the QC45 is barely usable in windy conditions, and I did do a review on that particular point. I'll put a link in the description, and that's because you cannot turn off the noise cancellation, so the external microphones surrounding the ear cups are always turned on, and if there are gusts of wind, you're going to hear that crackling sound of wind. It's less pronounced with the 700s. Now, if you happen to be looking at the QC35, it did not have that issue, and that's because there are 2 ANC settings. There's high and low, and when you activate the low ANC, the sound of wind is no longer heard. And now let's go through the actual tests of ANC in Aware mode so that you can hear for yourself to a certain degree. This is not an accurate experiment. And again, I'll have you hear what each of these headphones sound like in a quiet environment and in a loud environment. And how I'm going to do that, I have this lavalier mic, which I'm going to put inside the ear cup and wear the headphones. And the idea is the lavalier mic, to a certain degree, will record everything that essentially my ear will hear. And that way you'll get an idea on how effective the noise cancellation is and how it compares and how natural Aware mode is. So now I have the lavalier mic over here. I'm going to put that into the ear cup. So as this is the QC35, as I said, it does not have Aware mode. This is on ANC high. This is on ANC low, and you can turn off ANC, and this is how it sounds like. Now let me turn on this vacuum cleaner to see how well the ANC works. This is with ANC low, and this is with ANC high. So this is with ANC on full or on level 10. Let me go down.
0.
So this is ANC 0, so this is Aware mode. And this is how Aware mode sounds on the NC700. Now let me turn the vacuum cleaner back on, and I will go to full ANC. So this is how well the ANC works on the Bose 700. So this is what the Bose QC Ultra sound like in Aware mode. And I'm not sure how well you can tell, but it is noticeably more natural than the NC700s. Now, before I kick this into noise cancellation, let me demonstrate how Active Sense works. So I'm going to turn on the vacuum cleaner with Active Sense disabled, and then I'm going to enable Active Sense on Aware mode. And instantly you're going to realize it's going to bring down the sound of the vacuum cleaner. So this is without Active Sense. And I just turned on Active Sense again on Aware mode. Active Sense is off. Active Sense is on. Let's now kick it into maximum ANC.
And this is what maximum ANC sounds like on the QC Ultra.
Next up, I'm going to talk about call quality, and again, I'll have you hear what each of these headphones sounds like. Now, as I said, I no longer have the QC45s, but in my review last year, I did do a sound test, both in a quiet environment and on a busy street, so I'm going to insert into this video that segment.
So we're starting off with a Bose QC35, and this is what it sounds like in a quiet environment. So this is what the Bose QC35 sounds like in a quiet environment. Next up, I'm going to turn on this vacuum cleaner to see how well it cancels out the sound of that vacuum. And this is what the Bose QC35 sounds like with a loud vacuum cleaner running in the background. So again, this is what the Bose QC35 sounds like with a loud vacuum cleaner running in the background. So now we have the Bose NC700s on, and this is what they sound like in a quiet environment. Again, let's turn on the loud vacuum cleaner. And this is what they sound like with a loud vacuum cleaner on. Again, this is what the Bose NC700 sounds like with a loud vacuum cleaner on.
And lastly, this is what the QC Ultras sound like in a quiet environment. So this is what the Bose QC Ultra sound like in a quiet environment. Again, vacuum cleaner. And this is how the QC Ultras sound like with a loud vacuum cleaner running in the background. This is what the Bose QC Ultra sounds like with a loud vacuum cleaner running in the background.
So let's start off with the Bose QC35. As you can see, there's a highway behind me. Cars are passing by, but there's also cars passing by from all around me over here as well. So I'm outside, and as you can see, there's a highway right below me and a lot of cars passing by from all around as well. This is what the QC45 sounds like in a noisy environment. So this is what the Bose QC Ultra headphones sound like in a loud and noisy environment. I'm standing on a highway. As you can see, there's a lot of cars passing by. So this is again what the Bose QC Ultra headphones sound like in a very loud and noisy real-life environment. I'm going to switch to the Bose NC700 just to give you a comparison on how those sound in the same loud environment. So now I have the Bose NC700s on, still standing in the same loud environment with the cars passing by behind me. And this is what the Bose NC700s sound like in a loud and noisy environment.
In terms of battery life, the QC35s and the 700s only have 20 hours of battery life, while the 45s and the Ultras have 24 hours of battery life. So here are my thoughts on this comparison. It's going to be difficult to pick one because the best one is the one that best fits your needs. So what I can say, for example, if comfort is of utmost priority for you, then go for the 35-45s or even the Ultras, but stay away from the 700s. If you like controlling headphones with touch, then 700s are the only ones with touch controls, or vice versa. If you hate touch, then stay away from the 700s. If, however, audio quality is the most important thing for you, then I would say go for the Ultras, because they're the only ones that support high-res audio and have immersive audio, which makes a difference and does bring your music to life. And if the utmost priority for you is ANC, again, you cannot go wrong with any of those, but the Ultras do have a slightly more effective ANCs. The 700s, however, and the 45s, and also the 35s have great ANC as well. Again, with each generation being just slightly better than the previous one. Do keep in mind though, if variable ANC is important for you, then you have to pick between the 700s and the Ultra. And if you care about aware mode or transparency mode, then stay away from the 35s because that does not have it. So if you're looking for me to single out one clear winner, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I hope in this review I was able to illustrate some of the comparison points between the headphones to facilitate you making a decision based on what matters most for you. Price, of course, factors in. The Ultras, being only recently released, are the most expensive of the bunch, and they go for $430, which is quite expensive. So if budget is a factor, that's definitely going to factor into your decision. I will put links in the description for the product pages, so make sure to check that out to see what the prices are at the moment you're watching the review, especially that as these headphones get older and older, you often find some good promotions and good discounts on them. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments section what you thought, which one would you prefer, and which features do you think are most important. And as always, if you liked the video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to my channel, as this encourages me to continue producing content. Until next time, cheers.